We'll start with public comment on closed session. Do we have any public comment on closed session? Okay, seeing no public comment, we will move to closed session.
Yeah, we should get started here.
We'll get a thumbs up from Gary on if we're ready. Okay. Okay, we're going to open session. And at this point, we will report on closed session.
Sure. The board met in closed session to discuss the items identified on the closed session, received a report from special counsel and district counsel regarding the litigation matters, and received a report from agency negotiators regarding the real property matter. No reportable action took place. Mr. Chair, that concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. Lemieux. And at this time, we will, if you'll follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll have a moment of silence and self-prayer. Okay. Next is roll call.
Vice Chair Latora.
Here.
Chairman Heyman.
Present.
Director Itmeyer.
Present.
Director Peters.
Present.
Director Vallejo.
Present.
Okay, next we're going to move to item number 5, public comments. This time is reserved for the public to address the board about matters not on the agenda. No action will be taken on non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Okay, caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Don Decker. I would like to share some thoughts with the board. As a TAC member who's spent a lot of effort and time trying to add detail and accuracy to the activities of the board, we all realize the annual report was not run through the TAC, it wasn't reviewed by the board, and it's an example of a failure, really, to properly utilize the resources that are available. I'm not going to say any more about it. Hopefully, it will never happen again like that. The other aspect, which is related to it in a way, is that frequent reports have been like just a constant stream of reports have been submitted to the board, to the GA, by TAC members, including myself, and are not being posted. These omissions have been repeatedly pointed out by myself and others going back literally years. Those of us who are participating in the GA actions are not writing our reports just as exercises, and without posting, the other members of the TAC and the board cannot have access to what's being offered up. The last thing I want to talk about is the POAM issue. The GA appears to be no closer to an up-to-date POAM than a year ago. And as a person myself who was involved in many detailed and high-dollar projects, trying to navigate and negotiate your way along without a detailed plan and financial support that the POM gives you is impossible. And I encourage you in the strongest possible way to address that shortfall. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Mr. Christensen, please mute yourself.
Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Judy Decker. I'd like you to know that I can't hear you. However, I do have a comment. The Eastern Kern County Resource Conservation District had their monthly meeting last night and wanted me to pass on how much they appreciate Stan Rotora's continual request for PAC and TAC committee meetings, finance reports, and public presence. And I think that public presence is really important. The issue of the public not being able to hear you is very distressing, and it's not public participation. The other thing I have is for you, Scott. When we get to the Stetson reports and the view graphs, could you possibly ask for comments after each one instead of waiting to, for instance, all of number 7 and all of number 8 to be finished as you did last time, because they are very long. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Do we have any further public comment? Okay, seeing no public comment, we're going to move on to item number 6, the consent agenda. Consists of item A, approved minutes of the board meeting of April 14th, 2021. B, approved minutes of special board meeting May 6th, 2021. C, approve expenditures. Item I, $17,768.75 to regional government services for extraction fee extraction fee, replenishment fee. Item 2, $11,787.50 capital core. Item 3, $5,350 Waterwise Consulting. And item 4, $22,893.07 to California Rural Water Association.
I'll make, or do we get public comment first, or do we?
Well, is there any member of the public wish to remove any of these items from the consent agenda? I don't know. Okay. Any member of the board wish to remove any of the consent agenda items?
Not here.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vice Chair Rotora?
I'll ask, but do we have any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay, so seeing no public comment, we'll move it back to the motion and second.
Vice Chair Rotora,
Aye.
Chairman Hayman,
Aye.
Director Itnayer,
Aye.
Director Peters,
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye. And for what it's worth, I couldn't hear Mr. Rotora's vote.
Aye.
I heard that one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to item number 7, Water Resources Manager Report, and that will be with Steve Johnson.
Yeah. Well, good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chairman Hayman, and the board, and the public, stakeholders, people on the audience. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. It's good to be back with you again. And I too support meetings in person. I think well, we're certainly ready to do it if it works for the rest of the public and the public agencies. I know there's issues with public agencies attending these kinds of meetings, but we are open and ready to go. So I do want to respond really quickly to one of the comments that Decker made. I appreciate it. I want to let you know that we did get a little bit behind on the annual report this year. We had to get it in by April. That's why it was actually released before it ran to the board. And Director Rotora did make comments at the last meeting. The people working on my staff, the people working on the annual report, primarily Jean Moran and Heather Steele, work on the annual report. In communication with Jean, she has scheduled to have that annual report, a draft of that annual report completed and out for review by January of 2022. It's due in April, so I think that should give us enough time for input and go to the board before it's actually sent to DWR. So going on, I think we can put the PowerPoints up if Gary has our PowerPoints up. Most of these are updates. I've got staff on the call. I think I've got Steve Bright, who's actually out of the country, but he's going to call in for the stuff he's doing with Navy Coastal. I think Heather Steele is on the line. I think I have Joseph Montoya. He's been really keeping track of the grant work. I'll report on it. Those questions come up. I think Joseph's here to help answer those. I'll at least, recognizing Judy Decker's comment, at least if it's okay, I'll go through the first two because they're both grant updates on Prop 1 and Prop 68, and then maybe we can open for questions if that's the way you'd like to handle it. Chairman Hayman?
I was going to ask you about that, Steve. I would like to go ahead and try to get public comment after each of the items. So if you want to break it into like two of them or after each individual one,
okay.
We will work with that and address Judy's question about that, because I had a kind of question about it too, just based off the previous meetings that we've had. So I think it would behoove help the public a little better. So okay.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, sometimes we fall into the trap that we work on this stuff every day, so when I give the report, it's pretty fresh to me, but it's not fresh to the people we give it to. So,
okay.
So that's good, and we'll work on that. We'll work on operating that way. Anyway, the first PowerPoint is on Prop 1 status update, which we provide every meeting. We are still working on invoice number 8A with DWR. It actually covers the period through September, so we're running behind with DWR. The total payments, almost $138,000, so it's a significant amount of money that we're waiting on. You recall I reported at the last meeting that in the middle of the DWR review, they determined that some of the items in the invoice that we were requesting reimbursement on required, I guess went back and looked at the agreement, that they required documentation for secret compliance before they could pay. So we've been working on that. As you can see in the PowerPoint, some of the information that they're asking for, we're actually having to get from the Navy, which sometimes takes a little bit of an effort. We did submit environmental compliance information to DWR back on the 19th, and we're waiting for a review of that. The updated environmental information form that they've asked for is currently being reviewed, and so that's the status of it. We're waiting for the money. There's no issues with the amount. It's just process. I will let you know that I just saw an email from Jennifer at DWR just today, probably an hour ago, where she suggested that we might modify the invoice and take out the construction items, because it's only the construction items that require secret compliance before they can pay. So we haven't talked internally whether that makes sense or not, but we may want to see where we're at and possibly resubmit the invoice without the construction items so we can get payment for that, and then maybe put it on the next invoice. Only because it's a suggestion by DWR. So that's Proposition 1. I'm going to do Prop 68 because it's very, very short, and it's all grant money, so we will be able to open that, answer questions after that. Prop 68, as you all, I think, are familiar with, not near as big as Proposition 1. It's a little over $300,000. We've gotten most of the reimbursement on that. DWR is reviewing invoice 9B, and that's October through December. They did pay the 8B, which is consistent with Prop 1. But they're working on invoice 9B, which is a little over $4,000. It's not a lot of money. It was approved on March 26th, and we're just waiting for money at this point. We're just waiting for the delivery of the money. We're working on 10B. Estimated amounts a little over $3,000, not a lot of money. It's due by May 30th, and we should have that submitted to DWR on time. It should be ready to go. So before we proceed to ask for any questions from the board or the public on those two PowerPoints, Joseph is on. Joseph, did you have anything to add to the PowerPoint presentation?
I think the only thing I would add, Steve, is that under invoice 9A for Prop 1, we did get an email from DWR, I believe, yesterday, requesting a minor revision, one of the items that was included in that invoice. I believe it was, and they considered it an operation maintenance item that wasn't eligible cost under the grant agreement. So we'll be making a minor revision to that invoice 9A in the next episode.
Thank you, Joseph. I saw that too. Thank you for mentioning that. I forgot that. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, we're open for questions on those two PowerPoints.
Okay, so at this time, we'll open it to public comment for items A and B of the Water Resource Manager's report. Do we have any public comment? Okay, no public comment. So any questions from the board? Okay, no questions from the board, so continue on, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is the Recycle Water Program update. Joseph is going to provide that. I'll just give you a heads up, give everyone a heads up on it. We are working through the upfront organizational aspects of the Recycle Water Program. I think we may have reported, I forget where we're talking about things and where we're not, but I'll just let everyone know that we did get some input, very detailed, comprehensive input from the Water District and their consultants, Krieger and Stewart. Good folks over at Krieger and Stewart. We're working with Chuck Krieger, your district engineer. I actually worked with his dad, Bob Krieger, years and years ago, and a great, excellent engineer. Anyway, we got some very extensive comments related to our approach in the outline of the Recycle Water Program. It was very, very detailed suggestions that they wanted to provide toward the study itself. So with that, we had a coordination call, we had a staff call, and we're working from that to move forward. Hopefully, I mean, the goal here is to work in close coordination with the Water District and their consultants, and obviously the City of Ridgecrest. So, Joseph, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. So good morning, everyone. As you'll recall, this PowerPoint is for the water use alternatives analysis that is prepared to evaluate the use of water in the basin, to identify those that achieve highest and most cost-effective benefits towards the basin. There have been a few updates since last report. In the few days immediately after the last board meeting, a water white paper was prepared, staff from Stetson, Krieger and Stewart, the city's program manager for the expansion of the waste treatment facility, MKN, Mike Nunley over there, as well as Capital Core Group. And this white paper was prepared to eventually pursue grant or state funding that Capital Core identified from Congressman McCarthy's office. And it was really just a summary of the current efforts as far as upgrading and expanding the waste treatment facility and what potential water projects would look like as concept costs. So that white paper was released April 19th to Capital Core, and we have yet to hear any feedback from whether Congressman McCarthy has received or reviewed this paper, but we'll be on the lookout for that. As Steve mentioned, we did receive some comments on the scope of work for the water use alternatives analysis, Krieger and Stewart. Staff met with the city and the water district April 28th to discuss those comments, and then as a follow-up to that call, Elsley and myself met with Krieger and Stewart on May 4th to basically coordinate a review of those comments and preparing a joint scope of work that would include a new recycled water working group that would include Stetson, Krieger and Stewart, and the city's program manager. So that joint scope of work is currently being prepared. We hope to release it in the next 2 days. Also, not shown on this PowerPoint is an update on the write-up of the existing wastewater treatment facility and the current plans and an upgrade it. We promised at the last board meeting that we would have that within a few days after that board meeting. There's been a few delays in getting that out, part of which we had some items of clarification that we requested from the city. So we're hoping to release that in the next week, Steve. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Joseph. And Chairman, I'd just like to add, from a staff level, this is the entire Indian, the ground level authority staff, and the staff level, where we're trying to go with this is just for everybody's information and the outreach. Where we're trying to go with this is we're really trying to at least provide the opportunity for broad participation and involvement in this study for those who are interested, who may be participants in the project. It's great that the Water District provided the comments and that we're working together. I think we're on a good path to work cooperatively. The three agencies, the authority, the city, and the Water District, to work cooperatively together. As most people know, the Water District is paying quite a bit of money on the fees, which is supporting this study. So it's great that they're involved in the study, and will stay involved going forward, and may be a partner in the ultimate project. That's always there. And I'll just mention also that the door is open. I know there's issues going on. We had a special hearing on SILS, for example. SILS is one of the potential projects that we're looking at. In order to evaluate that project, we certainly need SILS participation and cooperation, and potential participation again as a beneficiary to the ultimate project that we built. So that's the message out there we're putting out there, hopefully. And as we pull this working group together on a cooperative approach to looking at the entire recycled water program, we want to include all those people who really are interested in participating and in the nuts and bolts work, and participating in the working group on a ground level floor. There will be, I want to make sure that folks on the TAC know this, and certainly the PAC too, there will be outreach to the committees, to the TAC committee, as the working group works through this and through stages. There are several stages where we will be reaching out to the TAC for input to review the work, the initial findings and conclusions, recommendations for initial steps as we look at the different alternatives. The first thing that the TAC will see will be certainly right after we do an internal staff review of what Joseph just described, which is the comprehensive program outline of how we're going to approach this job. As soon as internal staff has looked at it, it will be going to the TAC. So it will be coming to you. That will be the first communication we have with the TAC folks to get input back on that, and we'll proceed. And then as we work through the nuts and bolts work group, we want to keep the work group down to a working level so that we can make progress and move. But as we make our way through it and we come to some to milestone points, we will be sending those out to the TAC for input. So when we get all done, we want to have everybody on the same page. So with that, I think Joseph and I are available for questions.
Okay, so at this time, we'll open up to the public for item C under the Water Resource Manager's report. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Judy Decker. First of all, I'd like to say that I don't know about other people, but I'm hearing about every 10th word, so it's very difficult to follow along. But what I'd like to say is I'm glad that you have called in Krieger and Stewart to work with you on the recycled water program. Krieger and Stewart has done several extensive studies for the water district on this issue, going back as far as 30 years. Over 30 years ago, Krieger and Stewart was responsible for building a state-of-the-art tertiary treatment facility in the Palm Springs area, and their wastewater is being put to beneficial use. So I'm glad you're using them. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to get on with using the wastewater and saving our potable water. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. This is Derek Hoffman, attorney for Meadowbrook. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Derek. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just a quick question for Mr. Johnson. He mentioned the documents that would be provided to the TAC at the appropriate time, and I didn't catch what that was, but I'm wondering if it will include the recycled water white paper and the other documents that are referenced on the slide that was just presented. I'm asking if those materials will all be provided to the TAC. Could you clarify, please?
Steve?
Certainly, I think they can. I didn't know that they weren't. I didn't know that they weren't being posted on the website, but we can certainly provide those. Yes. Probably the easiest way, Derek. Probably the easiest way is just to go ahead and post those because it's just a white paper discussing what we already know about the recycled water program, and so that can probably work with April. We're going to post on the website so all of the public, not just the TAC, but all the public can see that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other public comment? Okay, seeing no further public comment, we'll bring it back to the board. Any questions for Steve from the board?
Yes, I have a couple. Who is MKN? And the next to last bullet, referenced by the city, MKN.
I can't hear.
Mr. Rotolo, I didn't hear anything you just said.
I assume that. Who is it?
Stan, you're going to have to pull that mic and have it right in front of your mouth to be able to.
Who is MKN?
Can you start again from the beginning? We missed everything you said.
Okay. We'll start. Stan Rotolo is asking a question. So, Stan, if you will repeat your question and please speak directly into the mic.
On the recycled water program sheet, the next to the last bullet references IWVGA, in parentheses Stetson, who we all are familiar with, then city, in parentheses MKN, which are three letters that Ron says is the consultant, and I'm just asking, who is that?
That's correct. That's correct. City's consultant.
Yeah, and who, one more time, who is MKN?
All right, Stan, we have...
They are the city's consulting service. Can you turn this mic on, Gary?
Mike?
Yes. Well, that's pretty clear. I'm sorry.
Okay, to unconfuse.
That is the name of their company. It's MKN.
And those initials stand for nothing? Or
Well, I assume it stands for his name, Michael K. Nunley, but their business name is MKN.
Okay, and what was the man's name?
Michael Nunley.
Michael.
He is working, Mr. Director, he is working for the city on the water treatment plant expansion.
Right.
Facility expansion.
Right, understand that.
Okay.
Yeah. Like K&S, we refer to as Krieger and Stewart. Just be nice to know who, Michael, what is his last name?
Nunley.
Nunley.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That wasn't hard. Okay. Second of all, a comment. I appreciate you mentioning the TAC. That's something I don't think we'll ever understand how much damage the COVID thing has done to the support that we've been getting from the TAC and the PAC. But I think it's time we get back together with the TAC and the PAC. And my feeling is the PAC should be given an opportunity to consult on anything. You never know when they may have an input. I am not going to, after every slide, talk about the PAC and the TAC, but I think it's important that we, from now on, bring them back in to the greatest extent that we can, because they have an important justification and use, and we need to start using them again. And I appreciate you actually putting them down on your view graph. We just need to continue to execute that thought. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, Steve, go ahead and continue on.
Okay, moving on, we're moving on to the Navy COSO funding projects, and I know he's out of the country. I know we're ready for getting on, but I think we have Steve Reich on. Steve, you hear?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's working. I appreciate that. So good. Well, hi, everybody. I just want to give you a quick update on the COSO project. Start off with the FY21 funding. After the progress last month, we found out we needed to do an archaeological survey on the site, so we hired a consultant, went out there, performed an archaeological site, performed a survey on April 29th, and eventually submitted a report to the BLM on, I believe it ended up being May 10th, which was required to complete the SF-259 process. So right now, we're waiting for the NEPA process to play itself out, and then we expect to have a final NEPA document that we can submit to the Navy upon its completion. The archaeological survey was negative, so hopefully that won't hold anything up. And that's kind of where we are on that process. As I mentioned last month, we have all the bids and everything. The work plan is now put together, and we're just waiting for that last document. So I can move on to FY22, or if there's any questions we want to like to address at this time on the FY21.
Go ahead and move on, and then we can take questions after you're finished.
So as I mentioned on FY22 last month, we did receive comments from Don Decker and Tim Parker. We went back and reviewed that. I worked with a consultant I'm working with to identify the most specific type of geophysical survey. The goal of this project is to identify locations that we can install monitoring wells that can be used to measure the inflow into the basin itself. So the mountain front recharge, I think that we all know, is a very big component, obviously, of the water budget. Trying to be able to be more specific on that. The geophysical survey will be proposed to locate and define those areas both from a geometry point of view as well as a hydrogeologic point of view so that we can site those wells, quantify the recharge into the basin, and then measure that with the monitoring wells that would be put in the second year. So right now, I got a proposal from the geophysicist. I had some corrections. I sent that back, and I expect to get the final document this week. So as soon as I get that final document, then with the write-up and the proposal, then that will be submitted to the Navy. So yeah, no, I'm available to answer questions.
Okay, so we'll bring it to the public. Do we have any public comment pertaining to item D of the Navy Coastal Royalty Fund for 2021 project? Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Judy Decker again. I want to say that I'm absolutely opposed to more studies of recharge. We have been studying this valley for over 50 years. This valley hasn't been in overdraft for 50 years. We can continue to study the trickles of water that are coming down from this canyon and that canyon as we use 28,000 acre-feet annually in pumping. Are you going to wait until the last drop of water is pumped out before you make a decision? You chose yourselves to be this board. It's up to you to make the tough decisions. They're going to be difficult and they're going to be expensive. But if you don't make them, they won't happen. There continues to be people who believe we have plenty of water as we continue to draw down our aquifer. Nature is unforgiving. You build your house on the cliff, it's eventually going to fall off. Think about it.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, seeing no further public comment, any questions from the board?
This is Commander Benson. I have a couple of comments.
Go ahead, Commander Benson.
Thank you. So with the 21 project, I'm glad to see that things are coming together for that. So I just want to remind the board here for this, kind of for the process of it. Once all that's completed, looking forward to seeing the final package. Needs to make sure it has all the executed real estate agreement, all the NEPA documentation, all finished up, plus the project cost estimates. And we'll need to review that stuff before you start making any expenditures. And also, so you know, the Navy is working to figure out through the fiscal law that Congress sets for us, on how we spend dollars, on the best method to actually transfer the ESP funds for the Rose Valley project. So we haven't quite determined the final strategy for that, but getting close. It may be in the form of some sort of a contract or some sort of intergovernment support agreement type method. But I just want to let you know that's kind of where we are in that process, and looking forward to getting the final documentation so we can get it all good to go moving forward here. And then the other comment I had is with the 22 projects that you're getting ready to submit on there. Just want to let you know that I expect sometime in the next 2 weeks we should receive the guidebook, which will give us all the rules for submissions, plus, more importantly, the submission timelines. I don't have it yet, but typically once that book comes out, we have 2 to 3 weeks to put the projects together in and have our little review board to determine which projects will be funded by that funding pot. So I just kind of want to put the timeline out. Looks like from the slides, you're going to be ready to give us that the week of May 16th. So it looks like it's going to line up. But I also want to remind you, you should make sure that the scope of work is provided with cost estimate. completed DD 1391 if it requires like actual physical construction, right? And then A, the required real estate agreements, which would include the NEPA and CEQA documentation with it. So I just want to make sure that those requirements were well known. Over.
Thank you, Commander Benson. Any other public comment?
Yeah, Commander Benson, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Am I muted or can the board hear me? This is Steve Mike.
We can hear you. We hear you.
Okay, good. I got a message on the WebEx saying that I was muted, so I was just checking.
You're on, Steve.
I appreciate the commander's comments, and I do look forward to the new guidebook coming out. I did have some communication last month or the month before with the commander regarding guidance for the FY22, and we are working under the old document, and so we would be able to adjust anything that might change in the 22 funding. So I look forward to working with the Navy with that. The one question I do have, and this is a 2-year proposal for the FY22, so it would be FY22 and FY23. The purpose of the first year is to identify the location for future monitoring wells, which would fall under the 1391 requirement. We don't have those locations yet, and so as a 2-year submittal, we would be meeting the requirements for the first year, but we would not have the NEPA documents and real estate documents for what would occur in FY23. So I don't want to take up the board's time on this, but I certainly would look forward to working with the commander to make sure that the submittal is clear and straightforward to meet those requirements.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from the board for Steve on this item? Okay, Steve, you can continue on.
Great. Mr. Reich, Steve Reich, thank you very much. You're doing a great job on this. I really appreciate your work on this. You're an area that I don't know much about, so we appreciate it. Steve, you got one more on the percolation study after we do the shallow well impacts. The next slide actually is, I think Heather's on, probably just listening. Heather Steele. I know we've got her busy on another project with deadlines. She thought she might listen in. So I'm going to help out unless she overrules me. Help out and just walk through her slide. Heather is the project manager on our shallow well impacts program development of the written program. So she is working on that. As you all know, she just had a beautiful baby boy. We've met him now. I've actually held him. He cried, but I held him. But he's doing well, and we're re-engaging Heather back to the office. She's been back in the office working a little bit these last couple of weeks, so it's great to have her back. We need her badly. For the shallow well impacts mitigation program, she is working on developing that criteria that we've talked about in the past. She wants to put it into a formal format and get it out for review, as we've all talked about, the TAC and the PAC. Certainly go through our staff team first, then out to the TAC and the PAC, and then back to the board. But that'll document the program and how we're going to evaluate impacted wells. As she shows there, the analysis will include nature and cause of failure, historical and current groundwater levels, water quality, evaluation of owner versus authority responsibilities. So it's going to cover the things we need to cover. We look to have that out within a couple of weeks. Well, and she says in June, within 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have that out for people to look at. She's working on that. So that's where we are. I just actually, sometimes as you're looking at this stuff, I thought about it a little bit. I should give you an update. We were shallow well impacts. There was a lot of discussion about shallow wells being impacted. I'll let you know that as time goes on, probably in the last 2 months, we've been contacted at least 3 times for 3 different shallow wells that have had impacts to lowering water levels, and contacted the authority and contacted us looking for assistance. We are directing them to the impact form that's on the website, and we're obviously working on the program, but the form is there to fill out. But just to let folks know that it is active in the future, and Heather and I will work on this in the future. I think it'd be a good idea that on a monthly basis we give you an update on the amount of forms that have been submitted, and who, not just who's submitted them, but just the number of forms that have been submitted for mitigation of the shallow well impacts. So I think that's it. Wes, giving some kudos to Wes. Wes Katzenstein did submit some information on our shallow well impacts, and so it was for not for his well, it was for a friend of his well. So we are. It seems to be starting to work and to start to get in place, getting the word out, let people know that this is the process. And as I said, we'll try to give you updates on that in the future. I doubt that Heather has anything to add, but I think we're open for questions if you have any questions, Chairman Hammond.
Okay, thank you, Steve. We'll open up to public comment on item E, GSP plan projects, project number 4, shallow well impact mitigation program. So any comments from the public? Okay, we have no public comment. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, no questions for you, Steve, so continue on.
I think it's back to Steve Wright for we call the infiltration studies, the surface percolation study. Steve, are you still on?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah, it looks like we got started last month on the infiltration study, and we got through basically task 1, which is completing the literature review and soil maps preparation. And I think, as we all know, and I mentioned before, there's been a lot of work that was previously completed in the basin that we were able to build on, and there's a lot of good work, I should note. So we took that, we used that to compile the soil maps and identify sites, based on our analysis plus the previous recommendations, and that's basically completed on task 1. Task 2, we're currently addressing regulatory constraints and other case studies in the Colorado region, Water Quality Control Board region. That we started this week, and then later on this month, we'll be addressing the potential sites and facility requirements. So we're moving along on that study. I think working towards meeting probably some type of deadline in late July to get a draft report out. So that's basically the status of the infiltration study.
Okay, thank you, Steve. We'll bring you back to public comment. So do we have any public comment? Okay, hearing no public comment. Any questions from the board for Steve?
Is this part of the Navy royalty program, COSO royalty program?
No. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm sorry.
Steve Johnson, can you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Steve, no, it is not. This is the program that was authorized by the board about maybe two meetings ago to look specifically at potential for surface replenishment of the groundwater using surface water ponds to replenish the groundwater. So one of the questions that was raised was we're looking at ways in which to get water back into our groundwater system.
I'm sorry. I was looking at the agenda and seeing percolation replenishment, and okay, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? None? Go ahead, Steve. Continue on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last item on our update is actually comes from your entire staff, the authority staff. I'll let you know that. I mean, it seems to be, to me anyway, it seems to be kind of a no-brainer to look at water conservation in a very arid area in a time where we've got drought all across the state. So this has come up from the staff level. I'll let you know that, for everybody to know that most of the work on this has been collaborated with both the Water District and the city, which are part of our staff. They have programs, they have ordinances, they have things in place for this. So the staff, and it's not necessarily us, it is the authority staff, is working on an ordinance to encourage water conservation. It seems to me to be entirely appropriate. I was actually tasked to just present an introduction to it. So we have a couple of slides, which is just an introduction. This is not the ordinance. This is not for approval. This is just to introduce the concept that the staff is looking at bringing to the board at a future meeting. So as part of the PowerPoint, you'll see on item B, there's a direct reference there from the water code giving the authority to restrict use of groundwater during emergency caused by drought and such. So that's why it's there. It's just to let people know that the authority's there. I'll let you know I'm surprised, but we've already received comments from Meadowbrook related to whether or not the authority does have the authority to do this, but we'll address that at another time. Right now, I just wanted to provide the introduction. So item B really is the authority to look at this. Then we go down to C, which is why we're considering doing consumption of all types of water in the basin, and to ensure, I guess, the goal is the most efficient use and beneficial use of our groundwater supply. That's all we have, and certainly recycled water. The next slide really is just a sort of an outline of some of the programs that are at least going to be considered as part of the ordinance. They're looking at prohibition against waste, which include landscape runoff, hardscape washdowns, known leaks in systems, vehicle washing. These are all normal things I think everybody's seen, and I think the residents of the valley, of the Water District, of the city, the entire valley, have seen this before between the Water District and the city. Restrictions on irrigation, odd days, that kind of restrictions where you do odd, even days on irrigation to try to reduce water for irrigation. It will include notices and penalties, and certain authorities provided to the general manager to continue the program or possibly make changes in the program to bring back to the board. And then it will obviously have a certain effective date. So this is all intended to be just an introduction that to the board and to the stakeholders in the audience that staff is looking at this right now, and we'll look at bringing an actual ordinance back to the board for approval. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Let's go ahead and open it up to public comment. Do we have any public comment on item G, 7G, introduction of the ordinance 1-21, water conservation? Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Judy Becker again. First of all, it says introduction to ordinance 0-21. There is already an ordinance called 0-21. It has to do with the transient food and following program. And I have a question, and my question is this ordinance in any way related to what Governor Newsom is talking about taking to the state? Because if it is, you need to wait until that legislation has been passed or not passed, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel all over again. And this is absolutely an item to go to the PAC committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Steve, do you have an answer for her?
Unmute. As I said, this is just an introduction. We can certainly have a look and see where the governor and the state is on on their conservation ordinances. We have other ordinances in place. We have a 20 by 20 ordinance. We have a lot of stuff going on across the state, but as we're pulling this together, we'll certainly look and see what the state is to make sure we are consistent. Yes.
And do we have are we going to be bringing this to the TAC or PAC?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
A draft of the ordinance will go to the PAC and the TAC.
Okay, very good. Any further public comment?
Mr. Chair, if there's no more public comment, I just wanted to ask a question.
We do have another caller. Do you want to ask it now, or do you want to wait till after we field this question?
I'll wait.
Okay. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Don Decker. I think, Mr. Heyman, you might want to wait a little longer for the incoming calls. It's taking quite a bit of time to actually get through. My comment is that I think it's very encouraging to hear that Stetson is paying close attention to activities that have previously been worked on extensively, like the recycled water program, water surface percolation aspects, and so on. I think that's a very important and encouraging thing to hear them talking about using those previous efforts to the maximum extent. The other thing I've got is a question about posting of reports that I gave at the very beginning, open comments. For example, the well owners reporting form, where is that actually posted? It's not obvious, frankly, that it's present on the Stetson site or the GA site. That's what I've got for you folks at this point. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Don.
Chairman Heyman, I will work with April and go back. Don's absolutely correct. He submitted some very, very important stuff, and I know, I'm not going to put words in Don's mouth, but I'm sure that he knows we've used it because I've referenced it when we've given reports on our product that we used the information provided by TAC members, including Don. I will work with April to look back at what you've submitted. I've got them all, and make sure they are posted, and then let you know where they are.
Perfect. We appreciate that. Any further public comment? Caller, go ahead.
Hi. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. This is Derek Hoffman, attorney for Meadowbrook. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Derek. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm calling on this item regarding the conservation ordinance, initial information. And I recognize Mr. Johnson said earlier that this is preliminary information and there may be more detail coming forward later. And he mentioned that we submitted the letter, which we did. Because the information that was presented in the slides is concerning, even though it is preliminary. The language in the slide refers to an ordinance that would restrict water use to uses that the GA determines to be necessary, or specific uses that the GA may from time to time find to be non-essential. And the concern there is, of course, that those seem to be arbitrary. And additionally, as we point out in our letter, if you actually look at Water Code 10725, the language there, we don't find express statements there that would support that the way that it's described in the presentation materials. And we don't find any other reference in the presentation materials to supporting authority for those types of actions. So we'd ask that the GA be very transparent in the basis for such an action when they do present, or if they do present some type of ordinance that would on this matter. And again, as I mentioned, the statements regarding necessary, non-essential, from time to time, again, these are concerning phrases. So yes, we have submitted a comment letter, and we'd urge the board to be very cautious in how they approach this and transparent in the basis for which they present it. I just want to also add that, Meadowbrook's been diligent and dutiful in complying with all the GA ordinances and resolutions over the past several years. It was one of the first to comply with the well registration, metering, and reporting requirements. We note that there are still hundreds that have not yet complied with numerous GA requirements. And Meadowbrook's timely paid all of its fees. So we've contributed significant efforts toward basin sustainability and water usage efficiency. So ask the board to keep that in mind as it considers water conservation ordinances or any type of regulatory efforts to further restrict water use. Thank you. Those are my comments today. Now we look forward to commenting further as more information is provided.
Very good. Thank you, Derek. Okay, see no further public comment. Any questions from the board?
Yes, I've got a couple of comments. We've been in a drought for several years, and independent of what our governor thinks, I'm not sure we're as tied, as close as most communities to the whole drought issue. I'm curious, what has raised this particular issue now at this point in time? Could anybody give me some background on that?
You're asking why are we bringing forward the emergency water conservation proposal?
Right. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's just the timing. We've had 3 years to bring this forward, and now all of a sudden it's being brought forward with no particular additional.
It was actually brought forward at the suggestion of the Water District staff at the staff meeting, and they were responding to what they perceived as potential wastes of water in the community. And they made your representative made the suggestion that we bring this forward for discussion, so we did.
Okay. I guess my second question, I guess I'll talk with our staff later on. Who's going to pay for this? Do we know where the funding for this effort's going to come from?
Funding for what aspect of it?
No, any aspect of it. Anything that costs money. Anything we do costs money. And, if it's not going to cost us anything, I'm all for it. I think this is not a right time to be introducing new ordinances that, quite frankly, may or may not be enforceable, or if they are enforceable, will require a lot of funding.
It's not immediately apparent to me that this will require a lot of funding, so I guess I would have to have you direct me to what you're talking about.
Yeah, and if I can weigh in here for just a moment too. I think we wanted to introduce this as a result of a lot of leaks that we were seeing throughout systems. I mean, we were seeing a lot through the investigations that were being performed. Some of the surrounding systems had leaks that just weren't being fixed in a timely manner. So we were seeing a lot of water waste. What we were looking for was something to give the authority a bit of leverage to get those leaks fixed, to ask those water system operators to get those leaks repaired so that we weren't wasting water. So this isn't so much directed at consumers as it is directed towards our water producers to make sure that they try their best to keep their systems in proper working order. I don't foresee a lot of cost associated with implementing this, at least at the administrative level.
Okay, great. Okay, that I think answers it, and I just want to keep posted on how it proceeds. But thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Mr. Chair. May?
Yes, John, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask if our staff had reached out to the respective local government agencies, the city, the counties, and see if those agencies are also thinking about considering their own water restriction ordinances as well. See if there's any coordination that we should do there, or to start any coordination potentially. Just just a thought that I think is probably at least worth pursuing and having conversations with our member agencies directly.
Carol, do you have any comment on that?
I would say I don't think we have done any type of outreach at that level so far, but it's certainly something that we would want to do. I think what we're looking at is already consistent with state policy, and it's already pretty much implemented, at the consumer retail level, but we would absolutely want to coordinate those efforts with the county, the water district, the city.
Yeah, and Carol, the development of this included the city and the water district. They participated in the components of that go into the ordinance. And as far as at least Kern County, Phil and Alan Christensen, we're certainly aware of that, but in San Benito, not so much. So yeah, an outreach after would be good as we pull this together.
I think the city and the water district already have in place certain ordinance on water wasting.
Yeah, Director Latroy, they did provide that information. I think that's where this came from. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I should clarify that you may recognize this ordinance as being derived from your ordinance. The suggestion was made essentially to have the same rules apply throughout the basin. And your staff was very helpful to provide this ordinance as a springboard for us to start the discussion.
I noticed in reading it, it looked very status quo to previous, requirements that we've experienced, within the city and the community.
Yeah, and that's by design. I think the thinking was, at least coming out of the chute, was to sort of have the same rules apply everywhere, so it was clear what was going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, very good. Do we have any other questions from the board?
I would like to go back to last month's report. I have had some questions from some of my colleagues on the water board regarding the water storage numbers that were presented.
Those items aren't on the agenda today.
And does it pertain to this particular item that we're currently on?
Right. So you can certainly raise comments during director comments.
Sure.
Okay, so any other comments pertaining to agenda item 7G, introduction of ordinance 121? If not, I will assume that we've answered all the questions in this format, going back and forth on each of the items. I think we've addressed everybody's questions and comments at this point. So we will move to item 8, General Manager's Report.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll see in your packet that you have a financial report this month. It is a bit of a work in progress, but you'll see there's a P&L, a profit and loss statement. And what we've tried to do is identify, the various funding sources and basically how they coordinate with the budget. So I think this is an excellent start to improvements on our financial reporting. Now, also on our meeting today is the RGS finance manager for our team, and that's Jeff Keiss. And he worked hard with April to put this document together. And if you have specific questions as to why some of the numbers are where they are, or why, I think he's the one to answer it. But otherwise, if you have any questions, please let us know. I think this is, as I say, an excellent start to our financial reporting improvements, and a bit of a work in progress, but I'm very pleased with it so far. Moving on, we have a report in the packet also from Capital Core Group. Not too much changed from last month. They continue to work with our federal representatives on opportunities for funding for some of the defense authorization monies. And they're also continuing to monitor grants that might be available from the state on to see if we have any projects that might qualify for some of the infrastructure improvements that some grant money is going to be available for a little later this year. So interesting reading to review in your packet. We also have a report on the STAC program. So as you probably know, we're starting to wind this up. We have two components of it. One was the conservation and rebate program. The other is the leak detection program. And so as far as the leak detection program, we have a progress report in here. We have staff working on trying to detect leaks throughout various areas. Looks like they were concentrating in April on areas such as South Desert Mutual, Pioneer Point, West Valley. April, I believe, was the final month of that program. We don't have the final report yet. But we do understand that there's monies remaining for that program, and we have reached out to DWR staff to see if we could transfer that money from the conservation or the rebate program to the leak detection program. And they've said that we are able to do that. Now, we have a June 30th end date for the grant program, so we'll also be asking DWR staff to consider extending that for a portion of time so that we can take advantage of those monies and extend the work that we're doing in the leak detection program. Beyond that, I think the last item from my report is the delinquent account report, and I just don't have too much for you here. We've just been busy with other matters, but we will have an improved accounting of that at our next meeting. Can I answer any questions?
Okay, thank you, Carol. So at this point, we'll open the public comment on the item 8, General Manager's Report. Okay, no public comment, so we'll bring it back to the board for any questions for Carol.
Want me to go first? Yeah, I'd like to go back all the way to 8A, and I would like to suggest in the future that after the finance report, we actually have time for comment. The finance report is critical, obviously. Understanding this is a work in progress, I was curious whether or not you feel comfortable at this point in time summarizing the bottom line of what you think the current financial status is.
Well, it's a difficult conclusion to draw at this point because, as you can see by reviewing this, we have budget estimates that were, I think that tried to estimate what type of receipts we would have. So far through this year, we have some conflicts that have caused some of those receipts not to come in, as we know. So we're working as best we can with the receipts that we have and the budget that we have. Clearly, they don't correspond really well, but I think we are where we are. I'll defer to our finance manager. He's on the line if he would like to add anything to that. But I think that the key here is that we had a budget that was a little fairly optimistic, at least if not optimistic, then it tried to portray what was expected based on the action that the board took to impose certain fees. We certainly don't have all of those to show on this statement so far. I'm hoping that further into the year we'll have a clearer outlook.
Okay, thank you. Just one, hopefully not taken as a criticism, but my eyes are as old as my body is. I had a hard time reading the document. I mean, independent of understanding the document, just the lack of any type of horizontal lines and the small print made it difficult for me to try to read. A comment, no response necessary. I believe the labels on columns 4 and 5 appear to be mislabeled. If you look at what's actually being charged, it looks more like they ought to be imported water and shallow well mitigation as opposed to what they are. And I think going back to my last budget that I had, that's what it would say. I was curious, why is the water district credit in a cash flow analysis? No. By the way, my understanding is this is not an accrual analysis. It's a cash flow analysis. Is that correct?
It's done on a cash basis. That's correct.
Okay. And so there was no money changed hands for the $615,000 under the column replenishment fee. And if there's no money changed hands, it doesn't end up in a bank account. So I guess I'm curious why it's there. Because it's the bottom line is going to be off by $615,000. It would seem to me the money's not in the bank.
You're absolutely correct. It's not in the bank. We needed to reflect it somehow because it was part of what was billed to them. Jeff, do you want to elaborate?
Well, I think it's an appropriate comment. I think it was an attempt to have numbers that reflect what was in the budget, since that revenue was forecasted, and we were trying to reflect it here.
Yes, no, I understand that, but there is no budgeted number. Like if you look under the GSP development, there is $500,000 in the budget for an expense for the county repayment, but there is no $615,000 in the replenishment fee budget. But I guess my feeling is if it doesn't end up as being cash flow, it doesn't exist in a cash flow budget. So just look at that if you would, please.
Yeah, absolutely. We're working with records that we're still getting our arms around.
And the line item called Stetson on page 2 needs some clarifications, I think, or at least I would appreciate clarifications. There are indentures underneath Stetson, which I'm assuming is a breakout of various line items for Stetson, but that's not clear. And then there is a number in the total column for $652,228, which I assume should be the total of the budget numbers under the first 4 columns, and yet they're all zero except for under GSP development, which is 60. And I can't follow any of the other numbers. So in any event, if you would look at that.
Sir, I really did just start with the budget document that was originally prepared and used its formatting and its numbers and collapsed them into this annual view. And then we're adding in the actual expenses as we record them. So we can certainly refine how this is presented, but I really started from what was passed and just translated it into a new document.
Would you agree that the 652 should be allocated between the 4 columns in front of it?
I'm sorry, the 652?
Right.
The district credit?
It's under Stetson on page 2. There's no line item number, so I can't refer you to anything.
Right.
But the total is 652, and that should be the sum of columns 2, 3, 4, and 5. It seems to me under budget.
I see what I agree.
Okay.
Okay. There are no charges that I could find under administration, or very few. A total of $100. Are those actual numbers? I mean, there was only $100 spent on administration.
I only have what I have what how April has prepared transmittals and recorded the expenses.
Well, it's going to be updated for next month anyway, right? In all those numbers?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, two last questions. What is the current cash in hand? Do we know that?
In the Mission Bank account we have here in Ridgecrest, there's just under $175,000 in that account that will be sent over to Kern County to pay outstanding invoices that we have. The May payments for April pumping were due as of May 10th, so those have not been processed or deposited at this point.
Okay. Well, I was sort of assuming that on page 3, the 491,729 would have been the accurate number at the end of March, right? This goes up through March 31st. So I was assuming that independent of what it is now or what it will be tomorrow, that at the end of March we had $491,000 in the bank. Am I interpreting those numbers correctly, or is this
No,
it's a cash balance?
I don't think so. I think that assumes the bank account started with 0 on January 1st. So I don't think that's appropriate to assume. But we still need a lot of financial information. I mean, we don't have
that's fair.
any idea what's on the balance sheet.
The auditor last year had the same problem. It's one of those things. I agree, it's probably a work in progress, but my last question is, what is the sum total of all of our liabilities? Do we have that information?
I don't.
Okay, thank you. That was all I had, Scott.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? And I noticed we had a caller earlier during this discussion, but is there any callers on hold? None? Okay. I just want to make sure we didn't miss out on anybody's public comment. So, all right. So seeing no further questions, we're going to move on to item number 9, closing comments. So we'll start with Director Itnire.
No comment.
Director Vallejo.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Nothing here.
I would like to go back to what I was asking before with regard to the water storage numbers in the annual report. There are some skeptics on the Water District Board of Directors. And I guess the real question is, are the numbers on the El Paso area real numbers? Do we understand the uncertainty of the measurement of those numbers? And how much confidence, I guess, do we have that the water storage in that area is going up more than 3,000 acre feet a year?
Chairman, can I respond?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, Director Vitale, let me try to respond to you. That question has come up. We've actually been asked for some clarifications because we've seen some of the correspondence, and we will be providing some clarification. The answer is no, it's not going up 3,000 acre feet a year. The information that's in the annual report is an annual report. It's not an assessment of the basin. We will be doing an assessment, a new assessment of the basin, the same way we did in the GSP at the 5-year review of the GSP. That's coming up. So it is just a look at that year with that year's information. There is some variability in the numbers. It is based on the numbers that we have, on water levels that we have. But the most important thing to understand is that we're looking at the operation of the basin, water levels, change in storage in the different areas of the basin that we have water level information, and the changes that we are seeing. You need to put it in proper context. And for example, the article that was in the newspaper, and I apologize, Brian, I think the newspaper man, he did reach out to try to contact me. We were not able to connect before he wrote the article. I wish we would have, and we will certainly try a little harder in the future. But it was basically it was taken it was taken out of context. The reality of the evaluation is it is an annual review. We do look back at several years, and when you look back at the most recent years, we characterize each year's evaluation based upon different conditions, whether or not it is a normal year, whether it is below normal, whether it is a dry year, normal, or a wet year. We have characterizations of the years. And based upon how the years stack up, you will see different changes in different parts of the basin. That'll just happen. But that is not indicative of the long-term health or the long-term trends of the basin. So, as I mentioned, we will provide a clarification, a written clarification, based upon the article that was written to the staff and get it out to the board for certain. But the direct answer to your question is it's mischaracterized to say that the El Paso area is rising 3,000 acre feet a year, and it's mischaracterized to do that for the health and the general operation of the basin. That's not correct.
Yeah. Well, it does give data for 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20. I believe five, and it does go up and down. It fluctuates, but it was the average. On the average, that was what I was. I didn't mean to imply it went up because it went down 2,000 one year, but then it went up 10,000 another year. So it's really the uncertainty that is, I guess, the question. But I appreciate you getting back to us with that.
Right. Yes, sir.
Now, on to what I was going to say. I have mentioned on multiple occasions that we need to open our meetings up to the public. The city has opened up to the public for some time. Even the water district opened up to the public on our last meeting, and I see no reason why we can't have the public attending this meeting. Also, in the same vein, I would like to see the TAC and the PAC leadership sitting down here in front where we can ask them questions as to what they are doing and what they are thinking. And I think in general, the TAC and the PAC leadership, as well as a large majority of the actual individuals, want to get back involved. I think we need to get back to going over the schedule for critical projects. The annual report is a good case in point. We used to every month go over the POAM. Unfortunately, we lost Commander Lownbottom, whose call sign I think is POAM. But we need to get back to looking at schedules. And if we were doing that, the annual report would not have ended up in the condition that it did in terms of schedule this year. I don't know that we have to look at every project, but there are some time-critical projects like the annual report and probably the budget and a few more that we do need to put on a schedule and look at it once a month. Last meeting, I suggested that we hire one general counsel for the GA rather than doing it the way we are.
You weren't here the last meeting.
The last regular meeting that happened. I think that it's very clear at this point in time that there are conflicts or potential conflicts between the various agencies, and we need to have one and only one general counsel. So I'm hoping that in the staff meetings that is being discussed and taken seriously. I think it's pretty evident that it would be awkward beyond belief for the Water District to take over the leadership of the General Counsel next year. I think we all are aware of the fact that the Water District is not participating in all the closed sessions even today. So that item needs to get some attention. Also, I think we need to start planning a dust mitigation program. If some of the private farmers, the small farmers, start fallowing their fields, we could end up with a serious dust problem, so that we don't want to wait until we have a problem before we start a dust mitigation program. And last, I think it's time we got started on the 2020 audit if we haven't already done so. And that's all I have.
Okay. I believe that's everyone's closing comments, and so at this time we will adjourn this meeting. Our next meeting will be on June 9th, 2021. Thank you, everyone.